All right, everybody, what's up? Bryce here, coming at you with a quick market update. And as you guys know, if you were watching yesterday's market update, that we were expecting a lot of volatility in the market today. And sure enough, we got that. In fact, the volatility index on Bitcoin went up 30% today. And again, we told you why there was going to be volatility, right? We literally forecasted it for you and said, hey, strap in because this is going to be wild. And we told you the Federal Reserve was meeting, and they were going to have a really big announcement. And that announcement was going to be on the future of monetary policy, meaning interest rates, and what's going to happen with the interest rates, as well as the government bond purchase program that they have, where quantitative easing, where they're printing money, they're buying bonds, and kind of propping up the market, right? And basically going into debt. Putting the country into debt to prop it up, to stimulate the economy and all that kind of stuff. So the question that Jerome Powell, who's the chairman of the Fed, the question that he was faced with was, well, inflation is heating up. Your CPI is at 5%, PPI is at about 6%. Some other metrics of inflation have it pegged higher than even 10%. So with an economy that, as we're opening back up and it's ripping and it's roaring, and plus we're in a zero interest rate environment, do you have to start increasing rates? And if you do, of course, equities will sell off if rates do get increased because the cost of borrowing gets more expensive. So long story short, what we saw today was the Federal Reserve coming out and saying, inflation is transitory, meaning that the market, and this is what Jerome Powell said, he said the market will correct those high prices. Like lumber's up 600%. He said in the past 12 months, he goes, the market will correct itself out. And of course, since in the kind of the short term, there's very inflationary pressures, it's transitory, meaning it will pass through. And so it's an interesting thought, where it's like, the market will correct those. Lumber has already crashed, 40% from the highs. Bitcoin has crashed 50% from the highs. And so in that regard, they're not going to be raising rates anytime soon. He said that they're not going to be raising rates to counteract that inflationary pressure until at the earliest 2022. So what we saw was a huge spike in Bitcoin, and then a huge crash, and then it basically was at flat as it resolved. So it's like, currently right now, Bitcoin's flat but slightly up. And that's why volatility spiked so much, because it moved in both directions. And so what we also saw was some altcoins as well really have quite some strong volatility as well. In fact, Ethereum and Solana and a lot of these other strong cryptocurrencies, these coins actually had a higher level of volatility than Bitcoin. And so there's a whole list of fundamentally strong cryptocurrencies that we're big fans of. They're in our Crypt Nation model portfolio. So if you guys are subscribers, you guys had buy zones that we put out in the newsletter ahead of time to kind of catch that volatility. And again, subscribe. You can check it out for a trial for $1. You just hit that big orange button below. But yeah, the markets right now, as this resistance has kind of been cleared, I'm expecting much higher prices actually, because what the Fed is kind of signaling is that, yeah, they are going to let inflation kind of run rampant for a little, meaning they're not going to be putting the lid on it by bringing rates up. So I'm expecting, continued upward price pressure in Bitcoin. And even Paul Tudor Jones, right? He had a big, what's it called? Interview that he did on CNBC the other day. And he said, hey, if the Fed comes out and they say they're going to let inflation kind of rip and continue to say it's transitory, that the inflation hedges are going to perform really well. And so that's what we're seeing right now, and we expect that to continue. So if you thought that was interesting and you guys want to learn more, guys, again, hit that orange button, $1 trial for 2 weeks, and you can see everything that we're doing behind the scenes here.